Go for it.
All right, everyone. Today I am actually going to show you guys how to change the fluid only in your fit cartridge. This is off my Fox 36 RC2. There's a lot of information online regarding how to actually change the oil, how to service it specifically from Fox and other forums, but there isn't any videos. And I wanted to make a video because if you're like me, I Google and try to find a video, and then I actually will proceed to do whatever repair or maintenance. And this is maintenance. I haven't done this for my fork, and I've done everything else. I could do my seals. My bushings are great, and there's no way I'm going to spend $200 to get this serviced when I can do it myself just for the oil change. Once I need to service it in terms of when it's up for the seals and the internals, then that's a different story. But this is only for switching out or changing your oil in your fit damper cartridge. Disclaimer before I proceed, this is the way I do it. You assume your own risk and responsibilities when actually doing this procedure on your own, but I'm going to show you how I've done it. So this is a video for all those individuals that want to see a how-to video. Okay. One thing I wanted to tell you, it's important that you get your tools ready before you do this, because you're going to find that you may need a specialty tool. But one of the biggest things that I've noticed online is the Mixmizer. This is something that Fox uses, and other individuals have used this, and this will actually sit inside your fitting here on your fit cartridge. Right, so this comes with the syringe apparatus here. You want to get some isopropyl alcohol for sure. You're going to want some rags, so I'm going to get that stuff set up here. You're going to want some Fox Red weight fluid, because that is prescribed, and make sure that you actually check and find out what actual fluid is recommended for your damper, because Fox tends to change the fluids here, but the red has been pretty consistent. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. So I actually did not show the part where I removed this from the actual fork assembly. I figured that if you are savvy enough to want to take this upon yourself, you probably know how to remove this, right? So this is a 26 millimeter socket that I had to debevel, and the cameraman actually was able to help me with that. But let's go ahead and proceed. So I removed the top caps off. So what holds the top cap is, this actual screw here. You could leave it on or take it off. I pretty much leave it on. It's not a big deal. I like to keep things intact, but I use a very fine screwdriver. It's a flat tip, and there is, cameraman, if you can get in here. So there's a circlip in here. It's very small, if you can see here. And we want to go ahead and remove that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my flat screwdriver. Again, you could use one of those dental picks, whatever you have to do the job. I find that this is actually the best way of doing it. So in there you're going to have there's going to be a little part of the actual circlip that is going to be beveled. I think that's the best way to do it, or excuse me, to say. So you're going to go ahead and grab it, as you can see there. So I'm grabbing it at the same time I'm putting my finger here, or I should say my thumb, to keep it from jumping up. So I've already removed that. And again, you have to be very careful because these will have a tendency to jump. So let me show you here. So as I mentioned that there's a little section that's notched off, that allows you to get a small screwdriver or a dental pick in there to actually remove this from the assembly here. So I'm going to put that here to the side, make sure I don't lose it. Okay, so at this point, all you have to do is go ahead. I left the screw on here because it's easy for me to go ahead and remove this from the fork here. So I'm going to go ahead and try to remove it here, and be very careful because you don't want to pop this out and you have oil shooting all over the place. All right. So as you can see, there's oil all the way to the top here, and that's what you want. You want to see that there's oil all the way up there because, again, this should have no air bubbles whatsoever. So I'm going to go ahead and use my rag here to hold this part here. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and eject the oil out. So at this point, I'm just pretty much pumping all the oil out of it. Want to make sure I don't have any large amounts of oil lingering in this assembly here. Okay. So the weird thing is, you have a bladder and inside you still have this actual hollow shaft. I thought this was completely, one rubber soft bladder, but the bladder is actually covering this inner part of the assembly here. Okay. So at this point, I feel that we've removed all of the oil. Very little residual here. Okay. I've actually already done this before, so I know that this oil is clean. So if you can see that, that's nice red oil. Usually once it starts to break down, it turns from this nice cherry red to this brown looking color. That's when you have to change your fluid. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and use my Mixmizer. Okay, so if you look in here, you have a little area where this actually will drop down. Okay, so that has sealed, right? So you have an outer diameter and then you have a diameter that tapers down at the bottom. So we want to make sure that we sit this Mixmizer with this rubber tip here down there. Okay, I actually added this rubber tip because I felt that it sealed it a little bit better. Okay, so here's the part where we fill this up. So you want to go ahead and hold the bladder. You want to squeeze it like so. Want to keep it squeezed. I'm going to go ahead and fill this up. And this process actually takes quite a bit of oil. Okay. So you don't want to actually run, as you can see here. I got air bubbles coming out because oil is going in. So my understanding is that you want to massage the bladder to get all the air out, right? So you want to displace the air and you want to fill it with oil, okay? So this is going to take actually quite some time to do this. So you can see there's a lot of bubbles there. All right, this is a tedious process here. And again, you want to make sure that your actual bladder does not go dry. Okay? It's better to have extra oil than not enough, and then you'd have to go back and bleed the process. Or excuse me, you'd have to go back through the bleeding process. Okay? So at this point, getting a lot of air bubbles, but we're displacing the air with some oil. As you can see, there's some oil that has moved down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get as much air out as possible. by massaging the bladder. You can see that the oil is dropping in level here on my Mixmizer because we're displacing that oil. Or excuse me, we're displacing the air with that oil there. Okay? So we're gonna wanna massage this bladder as much as possible. Get all the big air bubbles before we suck any of that oil in. So as you can see here, I'm doing pretty good. And I do apologize for my messy garage. But, you know, I don't have a cool studio. So, shade tree garage will do just fine. Okay. So it looks like we got a lot of these bubbles out here, so which is great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start pulling, having my hand on the bladder without letting it go. I'm going to go ahead and draw some of that fluid in. And you can hear it. Alright, so that has fully extended. So again, I'm going to go ahead and massage the bladder again. Again, this takes a little bit. As you can see, you got a couple bubbles there. You can hear the loons in the back, got 5 on it. So I actually haven't been riding for a while due to an injury, and so it's been some months here, going on like 8 months now. So hopefully once I bleed this here, and in the next maybe 2 months or so, I will be hitting the trails again. So I'm kind of prepping my bike here for that time. Hopefully it comes. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and push this up again. What I'm going to do is push any air bubbles that got in between the seals. Sometimes you have vapor lock. See, as you can see. And again, I'm still maintaining a firm grip on that bladder. Okay. So see, there's a lot of bubbles that did come out here. And one thing also that other individuals do is that they actually will let this sit for a while. They will let their air bubbles slowly rise to the top. They'll naturally do that on its own, but you know, I'm impatient and I'm gonna do it this way. So I'm sucking or drawing oil back, and inadvertently you're gonna draw some air bubbles. So again, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze the bladder, and I'm gonna go ahead and push this out. See if we got some bubbles. See, it's still, you know, we're still getting some air bubbles. I'm making sure that I'm maintaining. I'm gonna put a little oil in here. Just make sure I'm not sucking oil from the sides as well. Nope, my seal is good. So let's go ahead and try to drain some more air bubbles. You see that? Alright, so I think we're almost there. Actually got a lot of air bubbles out. Go ahead and pull some more. All right. I'm gonna do it one more time. Wow. That looks like we got all right. Looks like I got all the air bubbles out. Oh. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start drawing some fluid back in here. All right. So what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to put this here. We'll go ahead and pull this. So what you want to do, you can get a close up, is you want to make sure you maintain fluid all the way to the top there. Right, and I'm still holding the bladder, and the reason behind that is because you want to make sure that there's one, no air bubbles, right? Two, there's no air that actually will get sucked in there, and three, there you go, perfect. So now we've ensured that that has set in there. Okay, and there you go. And this is actually how you change the oil, put new oil into your bladder. Now all you have to do is put your retaining clip back in here, clean this up, put this back in here, and you're good to go. So pretty simple. Again, this goes in the same way. You push it down. I'm actually going to clean this up, but I wanted to get a general video of how this is done. It's very simple. Don't be intimidated by it. If I can do it, you can do it. Again, you know, only what you feel comfortable and you're capable of doing with your own mechanical skills. So at this point, that's all I have. Thank you for watching. I hope that this was helpful.